Hello, engineers. What you see on screen is my attempt at making chocolate molded candy. And you'll see here one of the trays used to make R2-D2, which you see right here. In this lesson, I hope to explain as best as I can what a mold is and how it relates to industry and engineering. The first thing I almost always think of when I think of molds or making plastic parts in this fashion, I always think of Lego because Lego is injection molded from a large metal block. They inject hot plastic, and what happens is it spits out a part like this. They have these I forget what they're called, but they're all these plastic Lego pieces that get attached and then processed, and that's how Lego is made. And that's basically what I did here with the chocolate. I melted some chocolate, put it into a mold, cooled it, and this chocolate actually turned out pretty tasty. And here's another example of a mold that you can get on the internet. So I found these on Amazon, and I bought them, and I experimented at home. What I want us to learn are just some basics about molding. So this website, I'm going to provide you this website. I want you to look over the website. I want you to play this first video here. It talks about injection molding and how it's used in the industry and how they create the molds. And the most crucial part about making a mold, in my opinion, is something called draft. So when you have a mold, let's look at this image right here. I wonder if I can open it and make it larger here. There we go. Okay, so here we have two molds, or the A side and the B side, and then we have the actual part that was molded out of it. The green part here has something called draft on it, and that's where the mold itself is angled so that when you pull the mold apart, the green part would come out easily and wouldn't break. Now that's not so much the case here for this part, this red part. If you were to pull these two molds apart, you would have a lot of friction here and you might end up breaking them apart. It's not impossible to make a part like this, but it is not as efficient as pulling apart when you have draft on it. This second video here, Injection Molding 101 Draft Angles, I definitely need you to watch that so that you understand how plastic parts are molded or how the molds are created. And another big takeaway is that injection molding is a technique where molten plastic or anything that can be a liquid then turn into a solid like chocolate is injected into a metal mold or silicone molds or a variety of other materials. There's always an A side and a B side. We are going to create molds in Tinkercad, and we're going to create an A side, and we may or may not be using chocolate depending on how good the molds turn out. But we'll definitely be experimenting with clay that hardens as it sits out. So with that being said, I want us all to open up Tinkercad and make sure we're logged into our accounts. And you should come to your dashboard here, tinkercad.com/dashboard. Click on Designs. And I have a few ideas in mind of how I'm going to teach this lesson, how I'm going to start. But for example, I'm going to start with showing you how to find pre-made models. And I'm going to click on, so you go into the search here. And I'm going to show you, I want to actually make a mold of a Pokeball. So I'm going to click search for Pokeball. And usually you get a lot of junk right out the front. So in Relevance, let's check on likes because we're going to get usually the best versions. And I think this version right here seems to be what I'm looking for. And my goal with the mold I'm going to make is I'm just going to make half of the Pokeball and then maybe turn it into some kind of charm that I could wear on a necklace or a bracelet, or even turn it into a magnet. So I'm going to click on that, and it says download. Usually I get a button that says copy and tinker, so maybe not that one. Let's try, I need something that's going to work with a mold. Show more designs. And what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for like more smoother parts, like this one might work. Let me click on this one right here. See how it says copy and tinker? That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to click copy and tinker. So now the model has loaded. Using my computer mouse with the right button, you can move your little world around here. With the left button, you can select all of the model like that. And we're going to make a mold using this existing model. So how am I going to do that? We're going to need a block. So we're going to take a block, drag it in, click on the corner of the block here, and select this dimension. Let's make it 50 by 50. And then make the height, let's make that 15. And this is going to be what I'm going to end up 3D printing. This block right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this model, I'm going to turn it into a hole, and then cut it out of this and export it and use that file to 3D print and see if I can make a clay mold with that. So I have my Pokeball, and I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees. Then I'm going to select both the ball and the block, click on align. Let me align the center and the center. Okay, and I can see if I look under it, the Pokeball is sticking out a bit. I don't want that, so I'm going to move it up about 4 millimeters. Okay, now I'm going to click on the Pokeball, I'm going to click on hole, and then I'm going to highlight everything here, and I hope this works. Then I'm going to group it. I'm going to click group, and I really hope this cuts the whole thing out. And it looks like it did not. Oh, you know what? The model I'm using was hollow. That's interesting. So, what if I added another ball and made it big like that? And what I'm doing is on my keyboard, I'm holding Control and Shift at the same time. I'm just making a ball that's large. Let me highlight everything and align it. And that might get rid of the ball, the Pokeball detail. So I'm going to lift it a little bit so I can see there's a gap between there. Now, let me turn this blue ball into a hole. And I'm going to turn the block into a hole too. So maybe I can see exactly where this ball is. Okay, so, it would have cut out too much. Maybe right there would be good. Okay, let me make that a solid again. Highlight both, and then click group. And still, no, this is not good. Okay, I'm going to undo. I'm going to press Control Z a few times. And what I really just need is that detail here. But this ball, let's see, how big is this? This is 50 by 50 by 49.99. Okay, so let me bring in a ball. Let me make the height 48. And then the two corners 48 and 48. Now, I'm doing my best to make my own model here. The skills that you're watching me apply can be applied to almost any model that you find, as long as there's a good draft angle. What I'm attempting to do right now is to create a solid Pokeball here. And if this doesn't work, I have another option I'll attempt in a moment. So I'm going to highlight both, and I'm going to align them all to their middle points. So all the midpoints, and then I'm going to group it. Okay, so hopefully that's a solid now. Okay, now I just need to rotate it again by 90. Zoom out a little bit. Highlight both, click Align. I'm going to align these centers. Just like that. There we go. The Pokeball again needs to go up about 4 millimeters. Okay, I'm going to turn it into a hole. And now it looks like a solid. Highlight both and group. Let's see. There we go. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. So now this insert here, what was cut away, will act as a mold. So if I wanted to 3D print this, what I would do is I would click Export. I would export it as an STL file. Now, you on your end, you may or may not have been trained on the 3D printing. If you have not been trained to 3D print, there are a handful of students that know how to 3D print by just getting your file. They can show you how to put it into Creality and then 3D print your mold. If you have not been trained on the 3D printer, then send me your STL file, and if it looks like it's printable, I'll print it. I would say like 9 out of 10 models that you create on your own are not printable, just because of certain things. Like even this model right here, I don't think these little divots, these like little sections right here are actually going to print. So I might have to go in and modify this even further to make it actually function as a Pokeball. Let me show you another example of what could be molded, or if we created a mold. So we're always going to start off with a block, and the block dimensions will vary. But let's just say for starting, we want a block that is 50 by 50. I'm going to delete this, with a height of 15 millimeters. And, you know, let's say we wanted to make a mold of this star. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it 180 degrees and not do that. Control Z. I want to move it over here on top, just like so, just like that. Turn it into a hole. Highlight everything, click group, and there it is. That would be a really great mold for like a necklace charm, or to make a magnet. What we would do is we would smush in and flatten some clay into the mold, and it has a good draft because there's an angle there. It's a star shape. If I wanted to add, like, let's say, let me put in a ring here and make this smaller. Let's say I wanted it to be a necklace. Okay, I'm going to put that in there like that, make it a hole, and then group this. And that's obviously terrible. But that would be that would create a ring that I could put a string around, or hang it from something, like even like an ornament. That was not done well, so I'm going to get rid of that. Just delete it. Okay, so that's the super basics of making molds using Tinkercad. We're not making A and B side molds like this website talks about. Like this would be A, this would be B. Just because we don't really need to. We're not making like full 3D objects that are going to stand. Like we're not making action figures, even though we might be able to in the future, which would be amazing, and I would love to see you try that. But for now, for this basic intro to mold making, let's try to keep it simple and straightforward. You can go into the Tinkercad designs, and I'm encouraging you to find, you know, simple objects, like, you know, even I have this Gengar here. I don't know if I think I found it on Thingiverse. But if you search for Gengar, or if you search for another Pokemon, you're gonna get a lot of silly things here. Like this one's kind of good. And let me actually open my Gengar that I have here and show you, like if I were to make a mold of this, what I would want is to angle it down, put in my block, 50 by 50, okay, and then put the, let's make that 15, let's see, align Gengar in here, and my block, let's see, let me actually make Gengar a little smaller. I'm going to scale him down and push him into that a little bit more, not all the way because I don't know if he has good draft angles or not. And then, yeah, I think that actually might work really well. That would be a really fun magnet. Now, okay, so here's a spot where I found where the mold itself wouldn't be able to pop out because there's that angle right there that would lock it in. Same right here. So let me undo, and let's raise Gengar out of that a little bit more. And then try again. We're losing some of the ears. That's the part I kind of enjoy. Let me angle them down a little bit. That's a little better. That would be a great magnet. And since we're using clay for this first round of molds, it would be easy to just like stuff the clay in there and like immediately pull it out and then let it harden with the air. It's you know, it doesn't need to be perfect for our first set of molds that we make. And if our 3D prints come out really well and they're not like brittle, maybe we might even be able to pour chocolate into it. I'm not entirely sure if it would work that great. As you can tell, so you might get some bubbles in your chocolate. And for this one, if the chocolate spills over it, it might break the piece a little bit. But there you have it. I want to see you make a mold and show me screenshots of what you made. So here you would take a screenshot and submit that. And then in export, click STL, that file, make sure you save it as whatever the mold is and your name, and attach that file to the Google Classroom assignment. And if your mold is good enough, it looks like there's not much draft, and it looks like it might be 3D printable in a quick fashion, then we might try it. If I say no to your 3D mold, don't be sad about it. Maybe try a different mold. Try to keep it super duper simple for your first mold, because it's a learning process for me still, because this is the first time I'm doing molds with students this year. And I want to see what you got. I want to see what you can create. So good luck with your mold making, and I hope we can get some 3D molds printed by the end of the week.